look for the next 5 years and the role that technology will play for the competitive carrier. I appreciate your focus on the smaller carrier dilemmas in your presentation. Thank you so much. And now our next speaker is George Reed, Senior Vice President of Solutions and Marketing at Huawei Technologies USA. George is responsible for leading several important teams ranging from service and solutions development to integrated marketing communications for Huawei's carrier and enterprise business groups in the United States and Canada. Prior to joining Huawei, George held executive positions for industry leaders such as Samsung, Alcatel, AT&T Bell Labs, where his roles span from engineering, operations, business management, and strategy. He brings more than 30 years of experience to the stage, I should say, domestic and international. And so we're very pleased to have him and his expertise and wide knowledge of both the business and the technology side. So we're very blessed today with two excellent technologists. And let me introduce George Reed from Huawei.
Thank you, Steve. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. So, oops, we're one ahead. So when I was thinking about which topics to pick for this discussion today, obviously there were a wide variety. 5G, 4.5G, SDN, NFV, the Internet of Things, VoLTE, RCS, and many more. So what I decided to talk about this morning was really a discussion around VoLTE and RCS and IMS implementation, because I believe a lot of you are either on the verge of deploying, maybe deploying, but you're certainly looking at it from an assessment perspective, because this will be part of your future in your networks as you roll them out. So over the next 20 minutes, I'll share with you some of what's happening on a global basis with VoLTE and RCS, some of the drivers as to why someone would want to implement VoLTE and RCS, and then talk about some associated implementation options with the IMS platform that you require when you deploy these particular services. I will forewarn you, my presentation does get down into the technical details in some places, so please bear with me, but I think you'll find it very interesting. So to kick things off, first take a look at what's happening with LTE, VoLTE, and RCS networks around the world. As you all know, LTE started in 2009 with TeliaSonera in Sweden, and since then the expansion has been tremendous. Right now, according to the GSMA Intelligence website, there's over 470 live networks in 124 countries. It's just in a few short years. Pretty amazing. GSMA also, let me back up, in 2012, VoLTE systems were launched in South Korea. And since then, according to GSMA Intelligence, there's 16 live networks in 8 countries. Now there's an asterisk by the 16, and on the next slide, I'll explain why. RCS networks that are currently branded under the Join brand through GSMA are launched in 34 countries. And you can also see now that there's a variety of countries that are studying, evaluating, in the process of determining when they will migrate their systems to support VoLTE and RCS networks. So the reason I had that asterisk on VoLTE network deployment is that last year in May, Huawei at the 2014 IMS World Forum was awarded Best VoLTE Product. And when they received that award, they also made a statement as to what kind of activity they were working with in the marketplace in terms of VoLTE rollouts and VoLTE rollouts and voice and video networks. So the numbers are a little bit different. At that time last May, Huawei was in 40 networks using circuit switch fallback capabilities, and actually in 21 networks in the deployment phase for a full IMS-based VoLTE capability. So needless to say, I think it's off to the races with VoLTE and RCS. Whatever data you look at, I think it's very topical, and most everyone is looking forward to what they can do with this kind of networks and the associated benefits. Now, VoLTE is going mainstream, and this is something I found when I was shopping around on the internet. If you can't see it in the back, it's a license plate wrapper, and it says, "Honk if you love VoLTE." So what a great gift to give your friends and family, right? So I was really impressed to find that on the internet, by the way. So let's, to really kind of put some context into why there's a movement towards VoLTE and RCS and what's happening in the communication space, I put this chart together. And it's not a difficult chart to follow, but you can see from the bottom left-hand quadrant, traditional networks, primarily we have a mobile network, we have a separate fixed network, and these are controlled by a single operator, and mostly, primarily, is one-to-one communications. Now, as we move up the left-hand axis, we go from one-to-one to many-to-many. And we all experience some of the many-to-many communications, and we use applications and services, collaborative-type applications and services like Link and WebEx. If you move from across the horizontal axis, no secret, we all move towards an open internet. And on the open internet, there's a variety of open and free applications that many of us have downloaded and use regularly, such as Skype, WhatsApp, Kik, many more. I think they're all familiar to you. Likewise, as we move to the upper right-hand quadrant, into the shared social mobile space, we utilize applications like Facebook and WeChat. So, what does all this kind of have to do with VoLTE and RCS? So I think the important point is that many of these applications and services are really offered by third-party over-the-top providers. And the wireless carriers are looked at as simply a pipe for the data. So by deploying and implementing RCS, the network operator can not only offer traditional voice services, but can begin to put together some very competitive applications and service packages. You can even integrate some of these over-the-top capabilities and improve your overall customer experience. And the second benefit is to put less stress on your network, and I'll explain what I mean by that. But improving the customer experience, I think, is what everybody is all about and concerned with. So at a high level, very quickly, we get voice improvement, voice quality, high quality HD video, HD quality voice in the transition from circuit switch to voice over LTE. We get better video, high quality video, and I'll dig a little bit deeper into these going forward. Multi-screen capabilities. And then also I can offer a tremendous number of applications and services via open APIs to create differentiable service bundles for your customers. So digging a little bit deeper, you can see there's clear benefits for the user experience when implementing VoLTE and RCS. I think these are commonly available statistics, and you can see that from the call setup time, when we move from a 3G service to a 4G service to a VoLTE service, call setup time is 10 times improved from 5 seconds roughly to about a half a second. If we look at the voice quality, in circuit switch voice, voice is delivered over a codec, the narrowband codec, adaptive multi-rate codec, in the range of 300 to 3400 hertz. When we move to VoLTE, it's a wideband codec with a much broader range of 50 to 7,000 hertz, which gives a very high quality audio portion. And I think many of you have probably already experienced this. You can go on websites and listen to the difference, so it's really a very nice improvement. Also in the video category, there's great improvements in the video from the 3G format, QCIF with 176 pixels to 144 pixels, to VGA at 480 to 640 pixels. Also 720p and 1080p are coming. So these are clear advantages that you can realize through the adoption of VoLTE. And then also with the RCS, there's just an infinite amount of applications and services that you can bring onto your network and provide to your subscriber base. Another, and it's not just my word. You can see a number of operators that have already gone down this path and implemented many of these services available on VoLTE and RCS. So also another key benefit of deploying VoLTE is that it can save spectrum resources. When you deploy LTE, you can see that for the same type of unit bandwidth, for example, for 5 megahertz, you can support roughly 50 subscribers with UMTS, and when you migrate to LTE, you can support over 200 subscribers. So it's a 4 times improvement in your bandwidth capability. And as we all know, spectrum is precious, so any way you can conserve bandwidth, repurpose bandwidth, you can utilize it for other different capabilities and possibilities. This is a way to do it. And on the right-hand chart, you can see that going from a 3G data channel to LTE, you save so much bandwidth. And then also, as we move to VoLTE, we can take advantage of the same principles in the voice area. So all of a sudden now you have lots of spectrum that's freed up for multiple services, broadband data, whatever you need in your network to improve your customer experience. And you can also see that, I mean, it's no secret, everyone is looking at how do I migrate from 2G to 3G, when do I do it, what's my timing, how do I take advantage of these bandwidth improvements. So there's some data up there as to who's done what in terms of migration strategies. So this is my alphabet soup slide, so bear with me. But how do you gain the benefits of VoLTE and RCS? It's really one of the things that you have to do is implement an IP multimedia subsystem, the IMS. And it's really it's become the de facto standard for migrating legacy services, legacy solutions, to provide more cost-effective IP platforms on any media. So as you can see, this is a traditional 2G, 3G network consisting of an MSC circuit switch core and an HLR. The first step is adding in LTE. And when you add an LTE, of course, there's a bunch of additional network elements I think you're all aware of. You have to add in an EPC, which has S&P gateway, a signaling processing server, and MME, and also you also can introduce the converged database between HLR and HSS. The next step in the evolution is to implement the IMS platform. So there's lots of logical elements here and lots of physical elements here. I won't go through all of them, but you can see that you need a session border controller for communication between the EPC and the IMS solution. You need a centralized telephony access server, the CTAS, to implement your certain voice solutions. And you need some other functions there to provide continuity in the system. And what you get when you implement this is voice over LTE with end-to-end quality of service control, which is critically important. You also have enhanced single radio voice continuity, voice call continuity, which helps in your handovers between LTE and 2G, 3G. And then you also have some kind of media gateway for continuity of LTE service. Again, lots of acronyms and elements. The next step would be what we call full LTE. And this is really the integration of fixed and mobile networks together. As I said early on, the IMS platform allows you to provide services IP services over any media. In this case, there's an opportunity to use the same platform to serve both fixed and mobile subscribers. And you have some elements there that come into play. An ICS, which provides 2G, 3G continuity, service continuity, as well as, again, another mobile application server to ensure that your system works seamlessly between LTE and 2G, 3G. Then if you really want to take the next step, desired or required, there's the ability to migrate to a cloud IMS. So it's no secret that the cloud IMS is available. Lots of companies are investing in cloud technology. So Huawei as well has gone down this path. So what I want to do is quickly talk through this. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the details, but what I really like to point your attention to is the fact that this is part of the virtualization world, the adoption of SDN NFV capabilities. And this is a very open, standards-based platform that is really the thrust of the industry as we move from legacy solutions to virtualized and cloud-based solutions. The hardware is open, and there's the ability to support various network function virtualizations. We also have great flexibility to provide additional plugins, resource control, and virtual machines. And all this allows you to offer your customer base, depending on how you control, manage, and manipulate your cloud solution, to offer differentiated services. On this platform, you can offer IaaS, which infrastructure as a service, and also platform as a service. Similarly, last May, Huawei won the award for most innovative virtualized IMS. So this is not just a slideware I'm showing you. This is a reality. We won that award based on our combination of a very advanced voice, video over LTE type capabilities. And there's some other highlights there. We passed proof of concepts with European operators last year. I lost the bottom part, but we've also done some roaming applications, VoLTE roaming applications with this cloud IMS. So I've talked about having a traditional IMS, a cloud IMS. There's another option available, which is a hosted IMS. In this case, it's pretty straightforward. There's a company that either you yourself or a third-party company has the IMS platform, owns the IMS platform, and serves as a hosting agent for network operators. In this case, it's pretty straightforward. You really don't have to add much in the way of hardware to your solution, your system, but you need a session border controller and a PCRF function. So similarly in concept to hosted EPCs, which I think some of you are already familiar with. So really the hoster of the platform can host as many subtending operators as possible. It's just a function of the limitations and the capacity of the hosting solution. So in addition to VoLTE, voice over Wi-Fi is coming of age. T-Mobile, Sprint have already implemented voice over Wi-Fi solutions. And the voice over Wi-Fi has its own benefits and capabilities. Certainly the ability to offload voice from the mobile network, the ability to improve in-building coverage. You can expand your footprint and also save on roaming costs, possibly. So if properly done, integrating voice and VoLTE on a single platform offers smooth inter-networking functions and avoids impact to the user experience when undergoing mobility aspects. You need an EPDG, an Evolved Packet Data Gateway, and a AAA server for authentication and other functions on top of the platform with the IMS. One other point to note is the fact that you can also, you don't have to have VoLTE operational to implement voice over Wi-Fi. You can do them one in front of the other. I'd be a little remiss in any presentation about VoLTE if I didn't address the devices side. There's lots of discussion. Steve had brought up the devices earlier, and Sprint had talked about devices and the ability to get devices in people's hands at the same time as the Tier 1 launches. So I think it's critically important. All of these devices here do support VoLTE. I can't say they all support all of your bands specifically, but I think it's important to know that there are devices out there and more and more and more coming on the market as we go forward. So just a quick summary. I talked about the expansion on a global basis of VoLTE and RCS on a worldwide angle. We talked about the benefits of implementing VoLTE and RCS. These are key for you and your business, reduce for the customer experience as well. Reduce call setup time, HD voice, improve video quality, integrated OTT services that allow you to create differentiated bundles of services and pricing plans, and efficient spectrum utilization. And then I shared with you some IMS options, implementation options. You can go with a full traditional IMS. You can go with a cloud IMS or a hosted IMS solution. So we're here to help you build your networks and build a better connected world. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, George. I know that everyone's got the rich communication suites and the VoLTE issues on their minds, and now we know how to do it, right? Okay. Right, Brian? Okay. Why don't we get going? We're starting to run just a few minutes behind because of our first session. So why don't we get to the Excellence in Marketing Awards? It's only going